We often build our identity on a foundation of familiar things: a name, a personality, a list of hobbies, maybe a career or a degree we can point to. We construct this sense of self through routine, habit, and the approval of others. It's the story we tell ourselves, carefully polished over years to feel secure, to be liked, even to be admired. But if Carl Jung were sitting across from you, he would see right through that comfortable veneer. He would understand that what you call you isn't the true you at all. It's a persona, a mask, meticulously sculpted to navigate the world, to please people, and to survive. And until you find the courage to pull that mask away and face the unfiltered truth beneath it, you'll remain a stranger to your own soul. Jung didn't believe that true self-discovery was a simple, peaceful process. For him, it was a confrontation. The real fight isn't against others, but against the image you've spent a lifetime perfecting, the one you retreat to because it's familiar, because it's what people expect, because it keeps the world from looking too closely. Most people choose to stay with this illusion. They would rather be liked than be authentic. They would rather be predictable than truly free. They would rather stay hidden behind a polished identity than face the difficult, beautiful mess of who they could become. But you're still here, still listening. That's not a coincidence. Something inside you is stirring, a quiet rebellion against the heavy weight of that mask. This isn't about chasing more motivation or gathering more information. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you've pushed away, the parts you silenced to avoid judgment, the parts you exiled because you were afraid. What will they think? What if I'm wrong? What if I'm too much? Those questions have kept you small, tethered to a version of yourself that feels safe but is fundamentally incomplete. This is more than a moment of quiet reflection. It's a direct challenge. You are standing at the edge, preparing to face the pieces of yourself you have spent years avoiding. The fears you buried as a child, the raw instincts you tamed to make others comfortable, the quiet defiance that still flickers in your chest every time you play a role that doesn't fit. Jung called this journey individuation, the process of becoming whole, not by adding more to your life, but by shedding what doesn't truly belong to you. It won't be easy, it won't be safe, but it is the only way to finally become the person you were always meant to be. Let's begin that journey together. Carl Jung didn't see your true self as something you simply stumble upon, like a forgotten item under the couch. To him, it's not a treasure you uncover by taking personality quizzes, chasing fleeting trends, or creating a vision board. The true self is something you forge, something you become through a difficult process of integration. This means gathering the broken, scattered pieces of who you are and putting them back together. It requires turning inward, not toward the spotlight of your achievements or the warmth of others' approval, but into the darkness, the chaos, the shadow. The shadow, in Jung's view, is a hidden vault holding everything you've pushed away. It's the anger you've swallowed, the selfishness you've disowned, and the desires you've buried deep because they felt too raw, too forbidden. It's the thoughts you've banished to the far corners of your mind, the versions of yourself you've deemed unacceptable because they didn't fit the script of who you are supposed to be. Over time, this shadow grows, becoming a silent collection of everything you've rejected just to survive in a world that demands conformity. To cope, you've created a persona, a polished, public-facing version of yourself. It's the you that smiles on cue, plays nice, and stays predictable and safe. This persona has served you well. It has won you praise, affection, and acceptance. It has helped you navigate the expectations of your family, friends, and society. But there is a price. The longer you wear this mask, the more you forget what lies beneath it. You start to believe the persona is who you truly are, and the people around you, they only know the edited version, the the one you've carefully curated to avoid conflict or judgment. Here is the difficult truth you must confront. You cannot become whole by perfecting your persona. Polishing the mask will not bring you any closer to your true self. Wholeness comes from embracing the shadow, from bringing those buried pieces out into the light. Jung put it in the most powerful way possible. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Read that line again. Your persona reacts to the world, but your shadow is the unseen force pulling the strings. It is behind your choices, your fears, and your unexplained impulses. Until you face it, you're not living, you're just performing. So take a moment. Ask yourself this: what have you suppressed? Not just the qualities you dislike, but the ones you fear others will reject. What parts of you did your parents, teachers, or society label as too much, too messy, or too wrong? What were you punished for, mocked for, or shamed into hiding? What truths have you silenced just to keep the peace? These questions are uncomfortable, but they are the essential first step toward reclaiming the parts of yourself you have exiled. This is where the real work of individuation begins. Perhaps you were told you were too loud, too quiet, too sensitive, or too ambitious, too intense, too emotional, too honest, too much. So you edited yourself. You sanded down your edges, muted your colors, and softened the sharp corners of who you truly were. With each edit, you pulled yourself further from your authentic self. You didn't just lose personality traits, you lost your instincts, your fire, your clarity. You traded authenticity for approval, and in the process, you buried the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. The result is that you became consistent, predictable, and palatable. You fit in. You may have succeeded, maybe even thrived in the eyes of the world. But inside, there is a hollowness, a quiet ache. It's not because you are broken, but because you have been living as only half of yourself. You have performed the role of the good person so well that you have forgotten what it feels like to be whole. Jung saw this everywhere. People who claimed to be kind, but secretly harbored deep resentments. Individuals who seemed calm, but were raging beneath the surface. People who gave endlessly, yet felt invisible. He saw successful individuals with polished lives who couldn't explain the void in their chests. He saw social media feeds filled with curated personas, but with no trace of a real identity. Why? Because when you build a life around a persona, you sever the vital connection to your soul. Let that powerful idea sink in. A life built on a mask is not a life. It's just a performance. This is why traditional self-improvement often fails. It's not about becoming a better version of your persona, polishing the mask, or upgrading the image you project to the world. What you truly need isn't improvement, it's integration. You need to descend into the shadow, into the basement of your psyche, where the parts of you that you have rejected reside. The goal isn't to drown in the pain, but to reclaim what is rightfully yours. Your passion, your instincts, your rage, your desires, your truth. Those parts of you that society, family, or fear convinced you to hide. Most people will never take this step. It feels too risky, too raw, like standing at the edge of an abyss. And in a way, it is. Jung's process of individuation demands a kind of death, not of you, but of the persona you have clung to for so long. It is not a sudden collapse, but a slow unraveling. Layer by layer, the mask you wear must be questioned, challenged, and finally dismantled. Only then can you begin to piece together the whole, authentic self you have been keeping at bay. You have to catch yourself in the act, moment by moment. Every time you say yes when your heart screams no. Every time you flash a smile to put others at ease, swallowing your own discomfort. Every time you apologize for speaking your truth or mute your voice just to be liked, that's not genuine kindness, it's self-erasure. The only way to stop is to become acutely aware of your shadow, to confront the contradictions within you so fiercely that you choose your own wholeness over the comfortable autopilot of habit. This is Jung's individuation, not a quest to become better, but a journey to become whole. It's not about polishing your edges to shine brighter in the eyes of others. It's about reclaiming the messy, hidden parts of yourself and weaving them into a complete, authentic existence. Let's be clear about one thing. This comes at a significant cost. You will lose some relationships, because some people only loved the mask you wore. You will disappoint those who relied on your predictability. You will unravel habits that once soothed you, and you will wrestle with guilt for daring to put yourself first. But in exchange for all that, you will breathe, deeply, freely. For the first time in years, you will feel the heavy weight of self-betrayal lift, because no amount of external approval is worth the true cost of abandoning your own soul. Jung understood this trade-off perfectly. He knew that the price of truth is often loneliness, but its reward is liberation. When you stop living for the validation of others, your clarity becomes a force of its own, sharp, unapologetic, and untamed. People won't always like it. They can no longer control you. You will stop craving their approval or chasing their attention. You will stop bending yourself to keep the peace and start choosing the peace within, even if it creates conflict on the outside. This is the fundamental shift. You stop asking, "How do I look?" and start asking, "Does this feel true?" You stop wondering, "Do they like me?" and start questioning, "Is this real?" You stop measuring yourself by, "Am I good?" and begin with, "Am I honest?" Truth isn't always pretty. It's often jagged, quiet, and chaotic. But it is you, the raw, unfiltered essence of who you are, stripped of pretense, and finally ready to be reclaimed. The more you embrace your own truth, the less the world can hold you in its grip. You stop buckling under pressure, unraveling under judgment, or shrinking yourself to seem smaller, softer, or simpler than you are. You begin to walk with the fullness of yourself, shadow and all. Others will sense it. They may not understand it, but they will feel the weight of your presence. You become unreadable, untouchable, and impossible to pin down. In your wholeness, you mirror their own avoidance back to them, and that is your power. Not to be loved by everyone, but to be undeniably, unapologetically whole. This is the heart of Jung's vision, not optimization, not perfection, but integration. You are not here to be liked or to fit neatly into someone else's story. You are here to become the most authentic version of yourself, a force that cannot be dismissed or diminished. Now we are diving deeper into the specific patterns that keep you fragmented. Why do you keep attracting what wounds you? Why is emotional compliance so often mistaken for maturity? And what precise steps did Jung outline to guide you toward true individuation? You have already glimpsed the truth. The person you've been living as isn't the full you. It's a survival mechanism, a carefully rehearsed mask forged from approval, applause, and the quiet fear of being too much. But something else is stirring within you now, and it is the pull of the shadow. That inner tension, the emotional friction between who you are and who you pretend to be. That silent tug of war between your truth and the image you project. That is where the real work begins. If you are feeling that inner tension ignite, that's actually a good sign. It's the first spark of waking up. The very moment you recognize your persona as nothing more than a costume, you begin to feel just how constricting it is, how exhausting it is to hold that pose, to nod along when your heart says no, to perform peace while your soul grows weary. That fatigue, That quiet ache after every forced smile is your truth clawing its way to the surface. But before you can step fully into your authentic self, you need to understand the machinery that has been keeping the false self in place. Your behaviors are not just random quirks or harmless habits. They are the reflexes of a fragmented psyche. Jung taught that unless you identify the traps that are holding you in this fractured state, you will remain a puppet, acting out a script of calm while quietly unraveling inside. So let's expose those traps. The first one is emotional compliance. The myth that being a good person means being agreeable. You have been taught that kindness equals conformity, that maturity means staying soft, patient, and accommodating, even when your boundaries are being trampled. You have been told that reacting is immature, that anger is toxic, that saying no is confrontational, and that claiming space for yourself is selfish. So you do the adult thing. You shrink, you nod, you soothe, and you please. But Jung would stop you right there and ask, at what cost? This emotional compliance is not maturity. It is submission. It is the shadow of fear masquerading as virtue. Every time you silence your truth to keep the peace, you are not growing stronger. You are surrendering another piece of yourself to the persona, letting it tighten its grip on your soul. If you never learn to separate genuine kindness from emotional compliance, you will be trapped in a life of endless apologies. Jung called this an over-identification with the persona. You become so terrified of your sharper edges, your raw honesty, and your righteous anger that you banish them to the shadows. But those exiled parts don't simply vanish. They seep out in subtle ways, through passive aggression, through constant people-pleasing, through a bone-deep exhaustion, and through those crises of identity that leave you questioning who you even are. So how do you break free from this? You stop mistaking emotional comfort for true integrity. You stop labeling your silence as a form of wisdom. You must learn to allow others to feel disappointed, uneasy, or even threatened, not because you are trying to be cruel, but because you are being clear. This is where individuation becomes a real challenge. You must stop cloaking your boundaries in niceness. You must stop softening your truth just to shield someone else's ego. And you must stop bartering your own worth for a fleeting sense of peace. Yes, people will push back. They are used to your compliance, to a version of you that exists to serve their comfort. When you step out of that role, they may not know how to love the real you. That is the price of freedom. You must choose to either live as a mirage or take the risk of being fully seen. Most people won't take that risk. But you are different. The longer you cling to emotional compliance, the more resentment festers inside you. You grow bitter toward those who have taken advantage of you, not realizing you have actually trained them to expect it. You exhaust yourself playing roles you have outgrown, yet you keep performing, shrinking until you are nearly invisible, even to yourself. So stop. Stop justifying your no. Stop translating your truth into something palatable. Stop apologizing for taking up space. That is the first trap. Emotional compliance, the illusion of virtue that keeps you tethered to a half-lived life. Now let's turn to the second trap, one that is far more deceptive, the pull of familiar wounds. Jung believed that until you integrate your shadow, it doesn't just distort your actions, it completely warps your relationships. You don't attract what you consciously desire. You attract what remains unhealed inside of you. That's why you keep finding yourself drawn to people who echo your past, people who reinforce old hurts, and people who don't truly see you, value you, or choose you. Yet they feel irresistibly compelling. That pull isn't genuine connection. It's your subconscious seeking a way to finally resolve old pain. You might call this love, chemistry, or even fate. But Jung would call it projection. Your inner child, still carrying the scars of early wounds, is desperately trying to replay the very pain that shaped you, hoping this time you'll somehow fix it. You tell yourself, "I'm just drawn to them." Jung would counter, "You're trying to finish an old story. You chase people who are emotionally unavailable, overly critical, or inconsistent, not because you are broken, but because your psyche is trapped in a loop, replaying a script it could not resolve in your childhood." Here is the most critical part. You can't heal yourself in the same environment that hurt you. Repeating the old pattern only deepens the wound. Each time you do, your shadow grows heavier, whispering that you are unworthy of love and leaving you more confused and less certain of who you are when no one else is watching. The relationships you choose become mirrors, reflecting not your truth, but the unhealed parts of your soul, pulling you further away from wholeness. This is why individuation demands a retreat, not forever, but long enough to truly break the cycle of chasing connection through your wounds. Long enough to realize that your wholeness does not live in someone else's embrace, but in your willingness to stand alone, grounded in your own truth. That is when you begin to reshape what you are drawn to. You stop chasing intensity and start valuing safety. You stop craving approval and begin to honor your own standards. You stop asking, "Will they stay?" and start asking, "Do I stay true to myself when they walk into the room?" That pivotal shift becomes your new foundation. Now let's dig deeper into the third trap, the addiction to certainty. Jung understood that the ego's primary job is to maintain order, predictability, and control. So when you begin to change, when you start dismantling the persona, the ego panics. It floods your mind with doubt, with fear, and with stories of failure, not because the shadow is inherently dangerous, but because it is completely unknown. The ego would rather cling to a familiar misery than take a single step into an unfamiliar freedom. So what do? You sabotage yourself. You procrastinate. You delay your truth, waiting for a moment when you feel ready, as if readiness were a prerequisite for growth. But the truth is, readiness is a myth, a trick of the ego designed to keep you stuck, tethered to the comfort of the known, even when it's suffocating you. The truth is, you will never feel completely ready. Waiting for the perfect moment is a trap. What you need isn't more time, it's more decisive action. Bold steps taken without permission. Speak without over-preparing, and move without over-justifying. Individuation doesn't wait for ideal conditions. It demands leaps into awkwardness, into uncertainty, and into the very question, what will they think? That leap is where your true identity is born. Not when it feels safe, but when it feels true. Now let's name the fourth trap, one that hides in plain sight, the addiction to self-improvement. It's the endless cycle of fixing, healing, and chasing the next level of yourself. You read books, you journal, you reflect, you optimize, yet nothing truly shifts. Why? Because self-improvement has become your new persona, a shinier mask that feels profound but keeps you stuck. You are still trying to earn your worth, just wrapped in a more spiritual costume. Instead of integrating your shadow, you're analyzing it, studying it, and keeping it at arm's length. Jung would cut through all the noise and say, stop studying yourself, start facing yourself. That means less reading and more revealing, less talking and more doing. You don't need more clarity. You need more confrontation. The raw courage to meet your shadow head-on and claim the parts of yourself you've been so expertly avoiding. Start doing what you've been avoiding. That is where real growth begins. Your true self doesn't emerge through endless planning or perfect timing. It's born in the heat of pressure, in the moments you dare to act authentically. A honest no spoken aloud, a boundary firmly set, a silence held without performance. These are the cracks where the mask begins to break, where the shadow softens, and where you finally meet yourself. Now we come to the final trap, the most seductive of all, the myth of the good person. You have been taught to be good, kind, agreeable, and likable, and you have built your entire identity around that ideal. But Jung would challenge you. Goodness is not the goal. Wholeness is. Your obsession with being good is just fear of rejection dressed up in noble clothing. You don't want to hurt others, and that's admirable. But sometimes the truth stings. Sometimes your authenticity disappoints. Sometimes your boundaries shatter someone else's illusions. If your identity cannot withstand that, then it is not real. So you must choose good or whole, kind or true, compliant or yourself. When you choose wholeness, everything shifts. You stop bargaining with your soul. You stop waiting for permission. You stop bending for approval. In that raw, uncomfortable space, your true self begins to surface. At first, it is quiet and tentative. Then, it grows bolder. You will start to make different choices, speak with a new clarity, and carry less guilt. One day, you will look around and realize you are no longer pretending, no longer performing, no longer seeking. You are simply being. This is the work of individuation, not a transformation into someone new, but a profound return to someone ancient, unfiltered, and undeniable. It is the you that was always there, just waiting to be reclaimed. If you have made it this far, you have done what most people never dare. You have stared down the mask you have worn, confronted the shadow you have carried, and unraveled the lies that propped up your entire identity. You have faced the discomfort of realizing the person you have been living as is not the real you, but just a compromise shaped by survival, polished by praise, and bound by emotional compliance. You have stepped into the journey Jung called individuation. This is how it all culminates. You stop chasing clarity and start embodying it. You stop seeking permission and simply exist. You stop performing for acceptance and begin defining it for yourself. You no longer fear your darkness. You weave it into the very fabric of your being. From this moment forward, your task is clear. Guard your peace like it is sacred. Speak your truth like it is your lifeline, and move through the world like you already belong. Let the mask burn. Let the shadow breathe. Let the unapologetic, unwavering you, the one who doesn't flinch or beg for approval, walk through the flames unscathed. That's the person you've always been, waiting to be reclaimed. Welcome home.